Hi everybody. I received a couple of queries concerning how we made the light effects in the Star Wars scene that we were working on. So I'm recording this during the midterm just so people will be kind of up and running when we go back. And I'll post this up on YouTube so you'll be able to have a look at it. So what I've done is here, this is our familiar Star Wars scene, is that I've got 4 different light fittings. I've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. And as you can see here, I can turn them on and off down here. 1, 2, 3 and 4. I've added some of the beams together. So beams for 2 and 3 are on that layer. The beams for 4 are on that layer. And the beam for the projector is on that layer. So what I've done is I've actually deleted the beam for number 1. So I'm going to turn off all of the light beams coming out of them. And I'm going to select layer 1 here for this first light. Now, if I want to put a separate light beam coming from there, it's advisable to put it on its own layer. So if something goes wrong or I don't need it, I can get rid of it without damaging the actual light fitting. So with that particular light selected, I'm going to go layer, new layer, and I'm going to call it beam 1. And I say OK. And you'll see it's turned up here above light 1. So that's what I want. Now there's a few different tools that we can use to do this. In class I used a mixture of the polygonal lasso tool, which is where we basically draw by hand and click, and the elliptical tool. So I'll do this both ways as an example. So the first thing is you click on here and we choose the polygonal lasso tool, and make sure we have a feather set for this so that we're not getting a very hard line between light and darkness because it looks unnatural. And the next thing we want to do is we want to draw a shape that basically starts at the light fitting and goes over to the poster. Now there's going to be a feather edge on this light, so for the purpose of this I can just draw straight to it, and there it is selected. Okay, now there is a little bit feather, so you can see there's a little curve there. So the next thing we want to do is put our gradient in. Now the gradient tool, if you have a paint bucket, click and hold it, you'll see the gradient tool coming up here, and at this moment in time I have the correct gradient selected. So what I have here is it's going from white to white with transparency. So I mean, I'll show you how these things work again. If I click on the top here, you'll see what's highlighted here is our transparency, which is at 100%, so it's fully visible. And if I click on the top at the other end, you'll see I've got 0, which is why we have the hatching. The hatching basically is indicative of transparency. So it's white at the bottom on the left, and it's white at the right. So this is actually white, but what it is it's 100% or 0% visible or 100% transparent, whichever way you want to look at it. So I have that selected correctly. So I'm going to say OK. And with our selection still made, we click and drag from the right to the left. Now, what's happening there is the solid white, or the 100% white, begins here at the light source, which would be right, and it fades as it gets to the wall. Now, if I want to see how that looks, I just go up and go select, deselect, and it's not bad. It's okay. Now, it might be a little bit strong for your scene, so all you do is go on over here to your opacity for that layer and drag it down, and you'll see that the actual transparency of the light is affected. So that will govern, how right that is will depend on your overall scene. If I was to leave that very, very low, so it was very visible, you'd kind of say that's not bright enough. But if I was to click on the scene and darken the scene and go image, adjust brightness and contrast, watch what happens when I darken the scene. The light fitting begins to look a little bit better because it's now in direct contrast with a dark room as opposed to a light room. So how light or transparent you want that light to be will be dependent on how bright your room is. But I'll make it brighter there. Okay, so that's the first way, okay? Oh, click on that. Here we go. Okay, so that's the first way. So I'm going to hide that, beam 1, hidden. And I'm going to do this again using a combination of the elliptical tool and the polygonal marquee. Or the polygonal lasso. Okay, so we're going to make a new layer again. We go layer, new layer. And we're going to call it beam 1 new, or whatever, and it turns up over here. So the original beam is hidden, and this one is now showing. So all we do this time is we choose our elliptical marquee tool first, and again we see a feather, which is really important, and we click and drag over that poster like so. Now to add a selection to it, we click on our polygonal lasso tool, and we press shift. Now if I press shift, have a look at the cursor there. You'll see that little plus symbol comes up. That means we're going to add to our current selection. Oh, it would do if I hadn't pressed my sticky keys so much. So I click on shift, I click once with the mouse, and then I can let shift go, and then I just select again. And when I get to the end, I double click, and there we go. So now what we have is we've got a kind of a spotlight type shape on the wall, and we have our familiar straight edges here. So I go back over to our gradient, and I click and drag from right to left, and I go select, deselect. And again, I can play with the opacity of this till I kind of get it right looking for the scene. And by all means, play around with the actual ellipse itself, or maybe the amount of gradient that there is. Maybe you don't want it to be so faded when it gets to the wall, or maybe you want it to be more faded. That's all done in the gradient tool panel. So that's it. So give that a go and see what you think. Any further problems with that, please let me know, and I will address them. Thank you.